Jarreau, you had a story on a 5-star young man that appeared very interested in the Vols. What can you tell me?
Yeah, so five-star defensive lineman Cameron Franklin, was in Knoxville this weekend. And a lot of these junior days, especially this one, it seemed like the common trend was the coaches are trying to let these prospects know where they fit in Tennessee's system. So Franklin said that was his favorite part of the visit was he got to sit down with Rodney Gardner, Tennessee's defensive line coach, and he said they talked football and he showed him like where he would line up and how he would play in Tennessee's system if he ended up a Vol. And he ended up showing him he'd be kind of like what he does in high school now, strong side, defensive end, and kind of all over the place in their scheme. But he said he really enjoyed Tennessee. He plans on coming back either for the spring game or a spring practice. And he got to sit in Thompson Bowling Arena. And they also introduced Tennessee's 2023 early enrollees at the game on Saturday. So he got to see just how much love Tennessee fans have for some of these recruits and these football guys. So he said that the fans were amazing, the atmosphere was amazing, and he really liked Knoxville.
Good stuff. What other names should we be aware of that were in town over the weekend that the Vols may have a good shot at?
So Bryce Young was another 5-star. He's listed as an edge rusher. And it seems like most people peg him as a Notre Dame lean. But Tennessee, he said he enjoyed Knoxville. He talked to Ryan Callahan. He said he enjoyed Knoxville. And also, like I said with Franklin, it seems like the common trend with these guys is everybody, they're telling all these prospects how they fit in Tennessee system. So there's really no secrets with Josh Heupel's coaching staff. It's, hey, they're not lying to these recruits or doing anything like that. They're telling them exactly what they would expect when they get to Tennessee and how they would play. So really, at that point, it's up to them if they want to take on that role when they get to Tennessee. And another guy that I think is very important for Tennessee is George McIntyre. He's a sophomore, but he was at the junior day this weekend. So he's a class of 2025 quarterback out of Brentwood Academy, 6'5", 178. And it seems like Tennessee might be competing with Vanderbilt for him. His grandfather was a coach at Vanderbilt, and he's a Nashville guy coming out of Brentwood. But he watched film with Joey Halsley, and like I said before, it just seems like everybody, the coach's main goal this weekend was to show these kids that are visiting what their role would be at Tennessee if they were to come to be a Vol. So I really think that the Vols are in good with him. It's early in his recruitment, like we said, for Tennessee, especially at this point in their program. It's very important that they get in early with some of these kids. So he's one that they're in early with, and I like their chances with McIntyre.
Great stuff. So again, the stories that you can check out on offthehooksports.com for the latest in recruiting. And do you know what the plan is upcoming? Because next week you have National Signing Day, which really isn't anymore. And I was told by somebody in the administration that National Signing Day is they probably will not sign a person unless there's a surprise. And so this weekend in the old schedule before the early signing period was really just to kind of wrap things up. They would have visitors in. This was the weekend that typically they'd have a lot of guys that were already committed and like maybe 3 or 4 highly rated guys that were deciding between top schools and try to pull them in via peer recruiting. But I'm not really sure, and you may not know either, and that's fine. I'm not really sure what they're doing this weekend because National Signing Day number 2, part 2, is really not much of anything anymore.
Yeah, so National Signing Day this year actually falls on Wednesday. So
Right.
really, they didn't even try, like there weren't any class of 2023 kids here this weekend that I know of. So it's kind of like they've just wrapped it up on this class, which realistically they're not in contention for anybody else in the class of 23. So the only things I would say to watch are South Carolina might pick up another big name recruit in Nichols Harbor, which SEC wise, and South Carolina picking up steam recruiting is never good for Tennessee. And then Georgia is in contention for their sixth 5-star, excuse me, I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, and that's Deuce Robinson. And Deuce Robinson participated in the Polynesian Bowl with Nico, and he was trying to recruit him, telling him to take his last visit to Tennessee. But I think Tennessee's coaching staff lost out on that battle probably 6-7 months ago. They just can't keep up with the Georgias and the Texases, and even right now Oregon seems to be picking up steam on the recruiting trail. So those are the only thing for Tennessee to watch this signing day would really be where the recruiting ranking falls, if they remain in the top 10 or if they do fall out to 11 or 12. But as for big names, it seems that South Carolina and Georgia are in contention for some guys in the SEC, and then I think Oregon, looking nationally, is poised to have a very good national signing day, which really is not even it's really not even the national signing day anymore.
No, it's not. Go ahead. Sorry, Calhoun.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say I want to jump in on the George McIntyre story because looking at the timeline, it seems like he would be the heir apparent to Nico, obviously. But everything I've read about him says he's a lot more of a pure drop back passer and not as much mobility. And I feel like with Heupel's system, you need that extra layer of mobility to really maximize what you can do. Do you know anything about that? Is that a concern right now for the coaching staff?
From what I've seen, I don't think so. But I have, from watching clips of him on Twitter, I have seen what you're talking about. He's more of he reminds me more of like a Peyton Manning guy. And even though Peyton Manning had that mobility, you wouldn't really classify him as a dual threat quarterback. Peyton Manning was 6'6", McIntyre comes in at 6'5", so he's going to be more of your bigger guy sitting in the pocket and dropping back. But Joey Halzle, and obviously he has good credibility with training quarterbacks and knowing what a good quarterback is. He's very, very high on McIntyre. And with the state of the quarterback room for Tennessee, I think they're probably going to go all in on McIntyre and then just have him be the heir apparent to Nico. And McIntyre is highly ranked and in the state of Tennessee. He hasn't gained as much national attention yet, but he's still a sophomore in high school. So, I mean, that's going to come with time.
Let's play a little game here. Everybody take 3 seconds and think about what is the most important aspect that when Tennessee evaluates a quarterback they want to see. What physical trait do they most want to see? Because you mentioned Peyton Manning. You said he had mobility, which is not true. His shoes are tied together when he runs. But he did have good – he had really, really good pocket mobility and pocket awareness. So what is number one on the list of things do you think Tennessee looks at when they evaluate prospective quarterbacks? So I'm going to ask both of you that. Brought to you by Craft Treats. Craft Treats, go to crafttreats.com. And you can get the chill pills that'll take care of your dog's anxiety. It'll take care of your dog's arthritis. It'll take care of even your dog's digestive issues thanks to CBD properties. That is crafttreats.com. Use the promo code Off the Hook. That's Off the Hook and get 20% off. How cool is that? Again, the promo code Off the Hook. And by the way, Smokey saying Caleb looking sharp. Looks like a young Tommy Lee Jones. Huh.
Okay.
Okay, so say this. Look into the camera, Caleb, and say this. I just say, I don't care. I didn't kill my wife.
I'm sorry. I'm young, Dave. I'm not sure of the reference.
It's The Fugitive. Just say, I don't. Just really stern. Look right at
You're not going to get me recorded on YouTube. That's going to be out there forever saying that.
No, from The Fugitive. Tommy Lee Jones goes, I don't care. But anyway. All right, so number one thing that Tennessee looks at, you think, from a quarterback perspective when they're evaluating a young man, Jarreau, is?
It would have to be accuracy. I mean, Josh Heupel's offense, the wide receivers are wide open. So it's not like you have to read very much or even be like the smartest quarterback on earth. But if you can't hit the wide open wide receiver that doesn't have a defender within 5 yards of him, it doesn't matter. So I think Joey Halzle's biggest thing would just be like, can he put the ball on a guy who's wide open or running down the field? So I'd have to say accuracy is probably number one, especially when you look at like Hendon Hooker. He didn't miss very many passes. I mean, he had very little interceptions. And when Jalen Hyatt was streaking down the field wide open, Hendon Hooker was putting it in the basket for him. So
I was going to – you kind of sort of stole mine. I was going to say deep ball accuracy because it opens things up underneath. Calhoun, how about you?
Yeah, I was literally going to say deep ball accuracy. I was really just going to say deep ball because, honestly, I think deep ball more than accuracy. We saw that's why Heupel was willing to go with Joe Milton last year ahead of Hendon Hooker because no one would have said deep ball accuracy with Joe Milton at the time. They would have just said deep ball. And I remember he started Drew Lock at Missouri, who was really just about the deep ball. Because, again, if you can throw the deep ball, like we talk about, the receivers are going to be open. There will be 10 plays in a game where receivers are wide open down the sidelines and have everybody beat. And all the quarterback has to do is hit 3 of them, and those are 3 touchdowns immediately. And so I would say the ability to throw the deep ball. I brought up T. Martin. We brought up T. Martin, how he would have thrived in the system. Another guy who I think would have thrived, Dave, funny enough, Jarreau, a little bit before your time, is Jonathan Crompton. Crompton, I will never forget the LSU game. The one thing he did well was he had a beautiful deep ball. Remember, they were just like throw it up to Robert Meacham when Eric Haynes was hurt.
I was going to say deep ball accuracy, so you guys kind of stole that. But in the course of doing that, I would have changed my mind anyway. I'm going to say Smoky Mountain Red said quick decision making. I'm just going to say get the ball out quick. I think that's a combination of your mechanics, your fundamentals of getting the ball out, not having a wind up, which I think Joe Milton has a little bit of a hitch in his delivery, but everybody's going to say I hate Joe Milton. I don't. I think whether it's decision making or the mechanics of getting the ball quickly, getting the ball out quickly. I think kind of those two things. I remember reading about Dan Marino's dad used to make him stand with his back against the barn so that he couldn't bring his arm back further than 90 degrees, and that's how he learned to get the ball out so quick. So he could only bring the ball back to a certain point. I'm trying to do some videos so on our audio platforms, we're struggling a little bit, but yeah, that was one of the reasons he got the ball out so quick. Dad would make him practice with his back against the barn so he couldn't bring his arm back the whole way. So those two things, quick decision making, fundamentally getting the ball out quick, I would say are number one. And I think Hooker did that. I think Nico will do that. I think Joe Milton is not bad, but if Hooker and Nico are a 10 on that scale, I think Joe's more along the lines of a 7.